The New York Knicks, despite a valiant effort from a rejuvenated Mikal Bridges, fall to the Detroit Pistons. Some clutch shot making from Cade Cunningham and Malik Beasley. We talk about it now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Gavin, Schall, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster and the Saturday host of the Locked On NBA podcast. He is Alex Wolfe, editor-in-chief of the Strickland, the greatest Knicks website in the whole wide world. Check out Prez put out, legendary Strickland contributor, a great video on why Karl-Anthony Towns needs to take more threes and why it's on Jalen Brunson and a couple other Knicks to help him get there. Go check that out on the Strickland. But for now, you're listening to Locked On Knicks, your daily podcast on the New York Knicks, giving you the most detailed insight on your favorite team 5 days a week. And be sure to join thousands of other Knicks fans in subscribing on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform to get the best insight on your favorite team every single day. We also want to remind you that today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. We also wanted to let you know one more time, but if it's your first listen, your favorite podcast now has a newsletter introduced in the Locked On Knicks daily newsletter, the one-stop shop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. You can sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Knicks newsletter to get writing from Alex and I, our team of national writers here at Locked On, and of course, Josh Lloyd, giving you the edge you need to win your fantasy basketball league. And Alex, in today's show, we are getting into just a brutal loss where the Knicks shot really well. A lot of them played really well. The Pistons shot even better. 2 big threes down the stretch from Malik Beasley after Cade Cunningham was just ripping them apart in the fourth quarter, doomed them a little bit. Is Mikal Bridges back after a 27-point performance, including some big shots down the stretch from him and a tough fourth quarter for Karl-Anthony Towns? What's going on with his injured finger? We're going to talk about all that. But Alex, to me, this just felt like another night where I guess I just said it a second ago, but I'll reiterate because I think it's an important point where I leave the game with the feeling the Knicks' margin for error is a little bit smaller than I thought coming into the season. I don't think this is a bad loss in a vacuum, but it is just another game where I'm like, all right, if they shoot this well against a team like Detroit, that's good, but on paper does not have a roster that should beat the Knicks. They should win these games. They did not. But again, the Pistons had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember, Detroit's not the team that they were even at the beginning of the season. I think that they're really starting to figure it out. I think that, credit to JB Bickerstaff, he's got them really locked in. I think that he's sort of giving them the same experience like what Tibbs gave to the Knicks in 20 to 21, where it's just like a shot in the arm of a competent coach after there's just been so much turmoil in that city with, a lot of talented young players that they've managed to draft. Cade Cunningham obviously is turning the corner into a full-blown superstar right now. I was gushing about Oscar Thompson prior to when we started recording. I think that he's fantastic. They added good vets this year. I know they got kind of, I know I at least raised my eyebrows a bit when they basically did Quentin Grimes for Tim Hardaway Jr., but just a good stabilizing vet. Malik Beasley, another good stabilizing vet. Tobias Harris, say whatever you want about him, but a good stabilizing veteran presence, and it's clearly working for them. So, I mean, hats off to them. I thought that they played a really good game. I do think, to your point, the margin for error was a little lower than you would maybe want. And the Knicks definitely didn't do themselves any favors by turning the ball over 17 times. I think if you want to look at one thing that is sort of analogous to the old Tibbs Knicks, that first year in 20 to 21 or whatever, the Pistons, I think, won this game because they barely turned the ball over. They only turned it over 11 times. They managed to get up 92 shot attempts compared to the Knicks' 80 total shot attempts. That makes a difference. So even though the Knicks shot well from three, got to the free throw line more, whatever, they just got out. If you take more shots, you have a better chance to win the game. If you turn the other team over more and, get rebounds and all that stuff, you're going to have a better chance. They also had 11 offensive rebounds to the Knicks 10. So another category that they won. It was a scrappy young team, but this game doesn't really make me feel, it's funny, difference a week makes, last week against Orlando, that game felt more doomy because it was just the Knicks were facing a team that was just completely wrecked by injuries that, they shouldn't have lost to, that, they still play really hard and everything. Like Jamal Mosley is great. And, they're a good team, no matter what. And like they fight every day and whatever, but like the Knicks should have just won that game. This game, I came in a little cautious because after that win yesterday, second game of a back-to-back, this is like a young, hungry team. Like they're really cruising right now. Cade is playing like the best basketball of his career by far. I mean, he was just unstoppable in this game. Like 36 points, 4 of 8 from 3, 14 of 27 overall. Like he just had a fantastic game and didn't even really get the assist numbers that he's been getting lately, but mostly because they just relied on him for scoring. And then they were just whipping the ball around like crazy and working off of the doubles that he was generating because he was getting so much attention. So he probably got about 8 hockey assists in this one. So, the 4 assist number is a little misleading, but yeah, I think the Knicks just ran into a really good, hungry young team. I'm not too pressed about it. I would have loved to have gotten the win because it's just, I'm getting just more worried now about if the Knicks miss out on these games against the sort of good, not great teams, then, when they have to face the great teams, they're going to have a harder time winning those games. And if they start losing all of those games, then they're going to pretty soon their playoff seeding and stuff is going to start getting affected by it. Which luckily to this point, they haven't been affected too poorly. Like as of right this second, they are still at third in the East, but the Magic are 3 games behind them. The Pacers are 3.5. The Bucks are 4 games behind them. So like there are teams that are within, striking distance of them. If they start dropping these games against the upper echelon, upper crust teams, which they do have a lot of games coming up, things could get ugly pretty quick. So, that's where you just hope that they win games like this. But it is what it is.
Yeah, Alex, to your point, and I was a little surprised to see this. We talked about all offseason how the Knicks had, I think it was the 4th easiest schedule in all of basketball. That was very, very front loaded, or there were some teams on their schedule just made dramatic improvements over where they were a year ago because they just went on tankathon.com, and the Knicks have the single hardest remaining schedule in the NBA, 523 winning percentage. I'm assuming that's their strength of schedule metric on Tankathon of their remaining opponents. Still 3 more games against the Cavs, 3 more games against the Celtics, 2 more against the Grizzlies. They play the Rockets, they play the Nuggets, they play the Mavs. So it is something to look for because there's been a lot of low-hanging fruit, at least the last week, that the Knicks have not taken advantage of. For the most part, they've been, if not quite as good as last year, very good against teams under 500. And to your point, the Pistons are not a team under 500, right? They are a legitimate playoff team. I think very much in the mix to maybe get a 6th seed when it's all said and done and avoid the play-in. This was their 7th win in 9 games. Cade Cunningham, I said it on Locked On NBA, and I will reiterate it here even more emphatically. I think he is a no-doubter top 5 MVP candidate. People keep talking about him like, yeah, he's an all-star this year. Good for Cade. I'm like, nah. This guy is, you would be pressed to tell me 5 players that are more important to their team than Cade Cunningham is to the Detroit Pistons. They would be, I think, far and away the worst team in basketball without him, especially after Jaden Ivey got hurt. And with him, they're a team that is capable of beating the New York Knicks on a night where they shoot the heck out of the ball, 50% from the field, 41% on 37 3-pointers, and 83% at the line. That was the one way the Knicks did mitigate a little bit the Pistons' advantage from the field. It's that they shot 11 more free throws, but obviously 2 points for field goals, 1 for free throws. So that's where you get the difference there. And Detroit shot even better, 50% from the field, 44% from 3, and they only missed 1 of their 18 free throws. Like, Alex, we've had nights where teams have shot great against the Knicks, and it feels like it's been a real pattern of late that teams just get red hot against New York. And a lot of those nights is very explainable because their defense is just not very good. Tonight, I thought it was some of that. I thought it was some of just really tough shot making from the Pistons. It was Malik Beasley early with those 4 threes, and then Cade was actually like fairly contained. I think, what did he have? Like 7-8 points at halftime. And I guess I can look that up on NBA.com real quick. But he was just a demon in the second half, right? Like totally unstoppable. Overall, I thought, what's his name? Mikal Bridges in the first half did it's okay to 29 in the second half. Mikal Bridges did a really good job on him early. And I think Mikal and OG switching off overall were pretty good on him in the second half. And the Knicks tried to mix it up, right? They had Cat blitzing late after they had Cat and drop, and Cade was just hitting 3 after 3. Cat blitzed, and he just like chop suey Cat, got right to the rim and hit a layup, was finishing over Cat. There was one where Cat even blocked it down the stretch of the fourth quarter, and it still went in. And then they started just hard blitzing him last two possessions of the game. Swing, Malik Beasley three. And the Knicks go down despite the fact that Jalen Brunson was scoring seemingly every time down at the end of this game.
Yeah. And, unfortunately, it's just going to happen to you some nights. And some guys love the Garden. Clearly, Malik Beasley is one of them. I think they cited this stat on MSG both during the broadcast and in the post-game show. But the most three-pointers made by any player over a 2-game stretch in MSG history. So,
Jesus,
pretty big. Two games for just for his team at the Garden or whatever. But pretty crazy stuff. So Malik Beasley, the hottest of hot at the Garden this year. Just, it's a shame that the Pistons are as good as they are, because otherwise I'd say find a way to get that guy in orange and blue by the end of the year. They could use that shooting, certainly use that consistency right now. Knicks maybe kicking themselves for not knocking on his door a little more in the offseason. But the guy whose door they did knock on was Mikal Bridges. Obviously, he bounced back in this game. I don't know, Gavin, is this one fool's gold? Is it not fool's gold? We're going to talk about it in just a moment and try to get to the bottom of it, because it was definitely a really good game for Mikal, but we've seen that before and we've been fooled. So hopefully we won't get fooled again. We'll try to get to the bottom of it next on Locked On Knicks.
But first, we want to tell you about some of our newest friends here at Locked On over at Wayfair. After the holiday hustle, there's nothing like giving your home a little TLC. I always find that decluttering and refreshing my space helps me get back into routine. Whether you're tidying up, clearing out, or just want to give your space a new look to start the year, Wayfair has everything you need, all within your budget. I'm currently looking for furniture, and their huge selection makes it easy to find pieces that fit my style and budget. My favorite part, the free and hassle-free delivery, even for larger items. Wayfair site was so easy to navigate. I found everything I needed in no time. Seriously, guys, I just moved cross country, and they make your life incredibly easy when you're stressed and you just want to get some quality furniture into your new place. So give your home the refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. All right, we are back here on Locked On Knicks, a 124-119 defeat at the hands of the Detroit Pistons. But Alex, I think part of the reason you and I are not so doom and gloom after this one and feeling pretty decent is that Mikal Bridges was freaking awesome in this game. Like no other way to describe it. 27 points on 13 shots, 6 of 8 from 3, 3 of 3 from the line, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block. I said it before, but I thought he did particularly early when Cade started this game, 2 for 7, like just a nice job stymieing him and slowing him down a little bit. Again, early third quarter, it got a little dicey, but most of that was, again, as I said before, I think Cade is maybe I say this about too many guys, but a bona fide top 10 player in the NBA, making shots. And Mikal, to his credit, down the stretch of this game was kind of matching him 3 for 3 and for the most part until the very, very end, shot for shot.
Yeah, and I think the important thing too is just like the process was there in the second half. Like sometimes a guy that's just that talented is just going to make the shots. Like you could throw, I don't know, like name, super talented defender X on Jalen Brunson, Dyson Daniels, whatever. Like you could throw Dyson Daniels on Jalen Brunson, and if Jalen Brunson has it going on that particular night, you could play the best defense, have a hand in his face every single time, be all up in his business, and Brunson will still make it happen. And that's the battle of good defenders versus good offensive players in the NBA. And sometimes the good offensive player, especially in today's day and age, is just way too good to give in to the defensive player. But I thought the Mikal, I kept watching, and every time that Cade would make like a 3 in the second half or a little pull up or whatever, like every single time I was like, I thought that was pretty good D by Mikal. Like I had very little to complain about. I was just like, man, like he got his hand up there. He wasn't late on the rotation. Like he was in his space, and he did everything but get the fingertip on the shot. Like it was within the centimeter that you got to be to like bother somebody. And yet Cade was just, flick of the wrist away from making those every single time. And he just kept making them. And, it is what it is with that sometimes, but I thought that Mikal like looked more engaged on both ends, which I think is the biggest thing that we've been complaining about, right? Like it's just I think I said it in the last recap, when we recapped the 2 games from over the weekend, like, he sometimes just looks like he doesn't even want to be on the floor lately, and it's just so bizarre. Like, I don't know if it's just him trying to pace himself for, the grind of the whole season with all the minutes he's playing and, the Iron Man streak and all that stuff, but it seems like some nights you get this version of Mikal where, like, he was awesome. I mean, he was running the floor, he was making aggressive cuts, and getting fed the ball on his way to the hoop, and, he missed, like, one layup that I thought he should have made, but otherwise was, like, finishing around the hoop, which was nice. Managed to get 3 free throw attempts out of this one. No matter how he got them, just getting a few free throw attempts on the board for him is a huge win in any given game. But then making the threes, there was kind of a funny moment early in the game. I don't know if you caught this one, but on the MSG broadcast, it was like there was one point early on where Brunson, I think, like, took a cat screen and was driving in and then sort of no looked it to the corner, and Mikal was there, but then he had started coming up towards the elbow for like an elbow three, and you could hear, like, it was either Clyde or Breen said, like, oh, he was expecting him to be in the corner there, and then the floor mics,
I did catch this.
the floor mics caught Brunson. At least I assume it was Brunson.
I thought it was someone in the crowd.
It could have been someone in the crowd, I guess. It looked almost like could have been Brunson, but it didn't necessarily sound like him. But either way, someone yelled at him like, "Mikal, stay in the corner! Like, don't move, stay in the corner." And it was just really funny because then that was where he did pretty much all of his damage from that point on through the rest of the game. I mean, out of all of his attempts, like, I'm looking at the spray chart right now, like, took 2 above the break threes that on the right side that didn't work out, 2 on the left side that did work out, but then the rest 4 corner threes in this one. Clearly his bread and butter and where he should have been taking the shots. So thank you to Brunson or that fan for informing him of that. But that was a big deal. But the bigger deal is just the being aggressive, on both ends. And he had it in this game. And, so did OG to a degree too, which again, it's just like, it makes you wonder, like, what goes on sometimes where these guys just seem disinterested, but they really are like the two guys that kind of rise the tide for this team. And Bridges, I think, playing as well as he did, kind of, I don't want to say it saved the Knicks or anything, because, like, Brunson and Cat were both brilliant too, but it provided the oomph that they needed to be in this game, because without him playing that way, it would have just been Brunson and Cat in this one, and that probably would have been curtains. They got a little bit of help off the bench, but, like, this is a very starter dependent game, and they didn't get the most offensively out of OG. So, like, they needed every bit out of him. I was just glad to see, Mikal giving it his all again.
Yeah, and I mean, even though, like, he didn't get up an insane amount of shots, obviously 13 is not crazy, but Benji pointed this out. The last 2 games were the only 2 games this season where he's taken less than 10 field goals, and to have that happen, I mean, obviously against the Thunder, he was kind of uniquely cold, but to have that happen back-to-back games, it was just nice to see him confident. And obviously, like, he's someone, like, as much as we and maybe even me more than you have ripped on him at times this year, like, I never really questioned that he's putting the time in. It's more so, to your point, like, very weird mentality shift. And again, you don't like, I think sometimes we've trouble saying this on the podcast, but sometimes there's just stuff you don't know off the court, and there's no way for us to know. And maybe that's what's going on. And I hope not. And I hope everything's good with him, but just some weird games where he does not, to your point, seem super engaged. And then tonight, like, he looked like an all-star. Like, if he did this every night, he would be an all-star. But I just thought he really benefited from the Knicks across the board having very quick ball movement. I thought Brunson, after a first quarter where he was a little bit head down, blinders on, trying again to just get the Knicks, will them to a good start, he was very good about moving off the ball quickly. And he hit Mikal at one point. I mentioned this last week with OG. It was the classic Devo 3, where just Brunson's coming off the screen, whole defense is locked in on him, and he just whips a no-look pass into the corner, and Mikal, super quick trigger on it, knocked it. And at that point, you were like, all right, maybe he's about to get hot. Cat hit him on that behind the back pass when he was cutting baseline, and Mikal hit a 1-foot fadeaway. That was just a really pretty play. And then just the timing of his shots, like, he hit 2 threes when the Knicks were down something like 9 points late in the third quarter to pull them back in it. And then in the fourth, 12 points, 3 for 3 from the field, 2 for 2 from 3, hit the last one to make it 118-117. And the Knicks had a great chance down the stretch to, I'm going to say, steal this game, and kind of lost their momentum after the Cade scored on the other end. They were down by 1, and Karl-Anthony Towns for the Third time in this game, got called for an illegal screen. Beasley hits another three, and that was pretty much the ball game. But Mikal did enough for the Knicks to win this one.
Yeah, certainly. And I think I think he did his part. I think Karl-Anthony Towns certainly did his part as well, with the fighting through what looked like a really painful injury. So we're going to get into that in just a moment, talk through that, talk about Jalen Brunson's night maybe a little bit. We've kind of gone to this point not really talking about it too much, even though he had 30 points again in this one, and 11 assists no less. So we'll talk about Brunson, Karl Towns, the injury, the potential implications, all that stuff in just a moment when we get back in. But first, I want to remind you all about our friends over at Game Time. And I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. One of my favorite memories was attending a concert last year. The energy and excitement were unforgettable. Gavin's mentioned it. Childish Gambino concert at Barclays Center. I feel sad that I'm one of only a handful of cities that got to see him play, but also thankful because it was an awesome freaking concert. And I got to go there because of Game Time. And now Game Time has made it even easier to get tickets to your favorite events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, I was looking for tickets to an upcoming Knicks game using Game Time, and I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but I will at some point. I got to get to a game. I haven't been to one yet this year. And with Game Time Picks, I found some amazing deals, and you can even see the view from my seat before buying. One of these days, I'll pull that trigger. The super deal was particularly impressive, offering guest seats at unbeatable prices. Plus, the app's all-in pricing shows the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
And we also want to tell you about our good friends over at Hungry Root. When it comes to grocery shopping and meal planning, I've had this ongoing problem. I just don't have the time between work, life, and trying to eat healthier. I was constantly feeling stressed out. I'd go to the grocery store, buy things I didn't need, and then end up with no time to actually cook. And guys, I love to cook. So if I'm not cooking, it does mean I'm incredibly busy and pretty obsessed about sticking healthy. But man, it's been a struggle of late because I've just been super busy. But everything changed when I discovered Hungry Root. Honestly, it's a game changer. It's the easiest way to eat healthy without all the stress. With Hungry Root, it's like having a personal shopper and a nutritionist all in one. They take care of my grocery shopping, recommending meals and groceries based on my taste and health goals, from anti-inflammatory to high-end and gluten-free options. And the best part, every meal is ready in 15 minutes or less. I'm talking quick, healthy meals that actually taste great, all delivered straight to my door. It's been a huge time saver and has made healthy eating so much simpler. You're going to have to love Hungry Root. You're going to love Hungry Root, as much as I do. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box and a free item in every box for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA. That's hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA, code LockedOnNBA to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA, code LockedOnNBA. Don't miss out. All right. You mentioned Karl-Anthony Towns. You mentioned Jalen Brunson. We'll start off with Jalen, and then we can get into Cat and his injury, which I think undoubtedly affected him down the stretch, because the guy went from shooting lights out to not being particularly close from distance. But I thought, aside from a 1-for-7 night from distance, which also hurt the Knicks, a pretty masterful performance from Jalen Brunson. He was 11 for 17 from 2-point range, 6 of 8 from the foul line, 11 assists, 4 rebounds, Alex, and just sort of dictated the terms of engagement all night. I mentioned early he was very aggressive in this one. He was getting the free throw line. Like it wasn't a negative by any means, but I actually, specifically after watching that Prez video and how there were all these windows for him to just make these really easy passes and pick and roll for Cat. So often he's drawing to the ball. Cat's kind of sitting there with his hands up, and a lot of time Brunson, especially in that Raptors game and at times against the Thunder, is just kind of head down, bullying his way to the rim, and he might score, but he's missing out on an easier, more efficient look. I, on the whole, did not really think that was an issue for him tonight. Like, and he was very good about self-correcting in that sense. Like, he had one play where he saw Deuce wide open and just kind of looked him off from three and then hit a tough fadeaway jumper. And then literally, I think it was 2 or 3 plays later, like drove, Deuce was in the same spot this time, sprayed it out, hit him, Deuce made the three. That was awesome. Had an early pick and pop with Cat, got Amen Thompson on his hip. And just again, it's like a really simple, like pivot back, flip it to Cat. Cat hit the three. Like the way he was able to spoon feed guys. Like I mentioned the one in the corner to Mikal. Like just a really, really, really high level passing game from Jalen Brunson, where I thought that was generally a real struggle for him against the Thunder with Oklahoma City aggressively blitzing him, and certainly helped that the Pistons, more similar to the Bucks, were at times content to just leave one guy on him. And Brunson, of course, cooked in that scenario, getting to the rim a lot down the stretch. Really nice fadeaway late in the third quarter. Had that back cut off of Cat for a layup. The play he fouled Duren out was a thing of beauty. Shot clock winding down and one jumper. Just threw like 4 different fakes at him. And then down the stretch, just getting to the rim over and over again. Got that layup over Isaiah Stewart to make it 114, 112. And it felt like he was the Knicks' whole offense. And I'm still bummed about that Cat screen. Not necessarily, I mean, it was kind of a bang call. I don't think it was egregious on Cat, but I just kind of wanted to see what Jalen was going to do that possession, because it felt like he was automatic down the stretch of this game.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, is different than the Milwaukee game in that they weren't like mega aggressive with sending doubles, but they were at least sending them. I think that was the big thing from that Milwaukee game, is they just weren't really doubling Brunson, which didn't make any sense at all. I don't know how you can look at his body of work and be like, let's just let this guy, play anyone one-on-one, unless
especially without a Drew Holiday or Lou Dort, right? You've one of those guys, sure, but if it's AJ Green, like, come on.
And even a Drew or a Lou Dort, I think it's got to be like Dyson Daniels at this point. If you're going to put someone on an island with Brunson, like that's it. Like that's the only guy that really that's worked with so far this year is, as far as just throwing one defender on Brunson and saying, do all the work. So yeah, I mean, I thought that he did a really good job of, it was Oscar Thompson a lot that was on him, and they had Ron Holland on him for a little bit too.
Cade had some reps.
Yeah. Cade had a few reps. I mean, it was, I think, for Oscar, he did really well, all things considered. I think that Holland, looked like a rookie. So that was maybe not the smartest choice to put him on Brunson, but a good challenge nonetheless. I think a good thing for Bickerstaff to try. And then Cade was fine enough. I think they just wanted to not have that matchup too often, because they couldn't afford to have Cade be in like real foul trouble. But again, to your point, I think that they did a really good job of like using the pick and rolls and early screens early in the shot clock to create mismatches and get Brunson with Duren on him on an island, and get him with, beef stew on him on an island and whatever, and use that as an opportunity to let Brunson really go to work. I'm with you. The one where he fouled Duren out, I was just like, that's perfect. Like that was so like NBA 2K right there, of just like targeting the dude who has 5 fouls and being like, bye-bye, like you're out of the game, like that's it, and it was clear that was the intention on that possession. Like, let's get Duren out of the game, like let's just target him, get him on a switch, and then I'll just pivot him to death and put up a shot, and he won't be able to do anything about it. And I thought that was probably my favorite possession from him. But also just spraying the ball around, I mean, to your point too, nothing to complain about with the vision in this game. This felt more like those games earlier in the season where we were talking about like, oh, he has that like Chris Paul mode that we didn't realize that he had. And yeah, so it was just all in all a masterful game for Brunson. If the 3-point shot went down, maybe this is a totally different game for the Knicks too, because a couple of them, they, especially down the stretch, just they needed those at some kind of key moments, and Brunson just wasn't able to get them to go today. But if he made a couple of those, maybe those are the back-breaking shots they need to like complete the comeback, to get all the way back and then to get ahead and just kind of leave Detroit in the dust. But, it is what it is. You can't really fault him. Like he did so well in every other aspect that it's hard to be like, well, he didn't score like 40 in this game. It's like, well, yeah, but like you can't expect him to score 40 every night. 31 should suffice. But another guy who I can't really complain about too much about was Cat. 26 points, 7 of 17 shooting, 4 of 9 from 3, 8 of 10 from the free throw line. I thought he was really aggressive in this game. 12 boards, all defensive. So I guess they were missing out a little bit on the offensive glass from him. And I think that's mostly because he hurt his hand somewhat early in this game. It was like towards the end of the first quarter. was going up for a dunk against Isaiah Stewart, and Stewart made a pretty good play on him, but to stop the dunk attempt. But then with the forward momentum and everything, Cat's dunking hand, his right hand, just kind of went up and got like slapped really hard up against the backboard and like the padding underneath it, whatever you call that. And it seemed like his thumb kind of like, with all that momentum of trying to dunk, kind of got caught on the padding as he was going, and really was bothering him the rest of the game. I mean, he immediately grabbed for it, was wincing, and like you could see even just from the floor was calling, like letting the trainer know, like, hey, get ready. Like, I need this taped the second that I get off the floor. Got it taped up, and it was clearly bothering him like a lot for the rest of the game. He had one play later on where he kind of got like swiped by Tobias Harris, and it went right down on his hand, and you could see like smacked his thumb, didn't really like pull it or anything from the look of it, but just like got solid contact on it. And Cat was like, he had to like, it kind of overran into the crowd and kind of stood there for a second, just like fiddling with it. I don't know what the injury was. He was really vague about it after the game. He got asked by reporters, like, did you have to get an x-ray? Did you have to, are they going to run tests? Yada, yada. And he was, all he kept saying was, it is what it is. Apparently that was like his only response. Would not elaborate any further than that. So Gavin, what's your concern level on a potential Cat injury? Because I got to be honest, if this comes back and it's like a broken thumb or something, Mitch had better be closer than we think, because if it's something where Cat is going to have to miss like 3-4 weeks or something like that, because it is a shooting hand, so it'd be much harder to just kind of live with for the rest of the season, or something Kobe style with like broken fingers or whatever. Especially on a thumb, no less. My concern level goes pretty high, because we saw recently what this team looks like if Cat has to miss even one game, and it can get ugly real fast without him out there. So yeah, I'm more than a little worried, and I'm hoping that we get some good news tomorrow, that it's just a sprain or something. Maybe he misses this game against Philly, but then is able to make a return by the end of the week or something. But definitely did not look pretty.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's not broken. I think if there was any chance of that, he probably gets an x-ray at halftime, but it could be a situation where Cat's like, hey, coach, I'm down to play through this. And Tibbs is like, great, we have to win every game possible. I don't care if it's falling off. I was just reading the other day about Ronnie Lott just amputating his finger in the offseason, because he would have come back slightly later in the regular season if he hadn't done it, which is insane. So maybe Cat summoned some of that. But yes, it's a concern at this point, because I kept saying it, right? The Knicks are the 3 seed because they're quite a good team, but also because their starters have been extraordinarily healthy, and they've played pretty much the easiest schedule in basketball up to this point. And as I just noted, it's about to get a lot harder. So any missed time from Cat, I mean, we saw that Magic game, just how much this offense falls apart, and maybe with more time away, the Knicks could figure some stuff out. But to your point, without Mitch, there is just not 48 minutes of good center play on this roster, and there's a world where we'd have to brush off OG at the 5 again, which I don't think would go very well given the Knicks' lack of size and physicality around him. That is presumably with Precious Achiuwa like in the game too for some rim protection, but that is a road that we don't have to go down yet. What I can say is Cat, like to your point, really valiant fighting through this. I do think you saw the effects of it, despite a game where I would say for the first 3 quarters on the whole, he played really well, like just like fantastic shooting. He started off 4 for 6 from 3. Those 3 assists were all just gimmies, right? He was setting up layups for guys. I thought his passing at times was really smart. He was very turnover prone. He had 6 turnovers in this game, like a couple of just really poor passes. One where Josh Hart was 5 feet away from him and he tried to no look it, and it just sailed out of bounds. And when, to your point, you look at that as maybe the decisive factor in this game, like I think that looms pretty large. And then like it was really affecting him late, right? He airballed 1 3 and shot another one off the backboard. I don't know if I've seen him take 1 3 that bad this season. I know for a fact he's had other airballs, so I shouldn't say that, but 2 in a row like that is just rare for a shooter as good as he is. And between that and I mentioned it before, the 3 offensive fouls on screens, it was just a few too many mistakes. His defense was pretty middling. Like he far from his worst game, but definitely was not affecting Cade at the rim in a dramatic way. Not an outstanding rebounding game by his standards. So credit to him for fighting through, but I think not having him at 100%. might have been the difference between the Knicks losing a close one and their ability to overcome the Pistons just having an out-of-body shooting performance.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I think, a couple factors could have, changed the course of this game. Even just if Cat's hand was 6 inches to the right,
Sure.
towards the end of the game, might have done it too, because there was a call late in this game that ultimately got reviewed during a timeout and went against the Knicks, which made sense. I thought it was clear on the floor that it had hit off of Cat's hand after it had hit off Oscar Thompson's hand, but it was called that it was going to be Knicks ball and then got overturned. So there was that one. There was the moving screen call, which I personally think, I don't know. I always tend to side with the big man because that's how I play when I play basketball. And I'm always just like, come on, man, he's got to be allowed to set a screen. Like,
it was close. You don't make that call in that situation, I think,
right,
even if he was a half second late, but whatever.
right. It's like a potential game tying scenario, and you're gonna nitpick over like whether his heel was still up, when Oscar Thompson ran into him. And like, to be fair, like Oscar Thompson really like plowed into him. I mean, I wonder if there's a world where if Cat had just flopped there, if he gets the call, and they say, oh, he barreled into him, but he stood strong and had a good screen. And I don't know, whatever. But no matter what, it was a game of inches in this one at the end of the day. I don't think I really have too much more to add. I mean, I think the bench, it was a little underwhelming again. I think Deuce made one of 2 threes, but all in all, just still didn't quite look all there yet. Campaign kind of picked up where he left off in Milwaukee. It wasn't as prolific, but at least made a couple of threes, got 10 points off the bench. Like, anyone getting double digit off the bench for the Knicks right now is a big deal. Josh Hart had a pretty standard Josh Hart game, 12 points, 14 boards, 5 assists. I didn't really feel like there was too much to report on there. OG, again, I think was pretty good on defense, and it could have been more aggressive on offense, but all in all, not the worst game in the world from him. I don't know. I guess, I don't know. Do you have any final notes? I think I'm pretty much done on this one and ready to move towards the next game and hopefully beating Philly on Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much all the same things. OG had that great blow by on Harris and dunk over Stewart. Like, that was a little encouraging. But when he tried to post up early in this game, he was like struggling. Like, he fired a layup off a backboard at one point, tried to bully ball TFJ and had an air ball that he caught. So that wasn't good. Did do some good stuff late, like bullying Cade and playing some good defense on him. Hart was rebounding, was insane. 10 rebounds with 5:30 left in the second. And Payne was shot well. I don't always love the shots that he takes. They were going in enough tonight, I guess. And he had some good defense that Tibbs trusted him to play a lot in the fourth quarter, but it's still up and down with him. And he's not someone, again, you really want to rely on in postseason basketball. I think Deuce is the biggest issue to me. Obviously, coming off the injury still, so you give him some grace, but I mean, not taking into account that injury time, his last 7 games, he's had single digits. And the Knicks, frankly, to be the team they want to be, they need last year's Deuce. And he's been solid defensively. I don't think he's been that offensively, and hopefully they get a little more from him. But Alex, we talked way longer than we expected to on this one. So we're going to wrap it up there. And presumably, I think we haven't talked it through yet. I think we'll have a show for you guys tomorrow, and then plenty of more action from the New York Knicks this week as the schedule picks up. So do we. We'll talk to you soon on Locked On Knicks.